What if one day you hitchhiked with a stranger, and the price you paid for that ride was your life? On a cold day in January 1982, two girls disappeared while hitchhiking with a stranger, and were later found in a very sad state. For nearly 40 years, the authorities could not find the identity of the killer, although he was rescued by the police on the night of the crime. You are listening to The Allen Case. DNA evidence reveals a crime hidden for 40 years on the Thrilling Story channel. And as always, if this story left an impression on you, don't hesitate to leave a like. Click to follow the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic and thrilling cases. 24 kilometers south of Breckenridge, there is a small, peaceful, mountain town called Alma in Park County. The people here are friendly, kind, and always help each other. At that time, people's income was not high, and few people had their own cars, so public transportation became popular. In town, there was a couple named Jeb and Bobby. Jeb was 26 years old and worked as an electronic repairman, and he had his own car, so he had a side job of driving customers around. Bobby was 29 years old and worked as a receptionist at a real estate company. They both went to work on different routes. Bobby often took the bus to work, and it took about half an hour to get to the company. Jeb felt worried about his wife's safety, so he made her a brass keychain to protect herself when needed. The peaceful days passed. They had been married for 4 years and were planning to have a baby. On January 6, 1982, a snowstorm swept through Colorado. The wind was strong and the snow was heavy, making the streets white. The weather forecast kept warning that the temperature could drop to -30 degrees in the evening and advised everyone to be careful. Today was also the day Bobby got promoted. After work, she invited a few friends to a nearby bar to celebrate. Everyone quickly forgot about the cold and the storm raging outside. At 6:20 p.m., Bobby called her husband to tell him not to worry and that she would be home early after the party. In the dim yellow light of the bar, Bobby's face was radiant with joy and her friends raised their glasses to celebrate her. About an hour later, at nearly 8 p.m., Bobby felt tired and decided to say goodbye to her friends and go home. But a friend invited Bobby to go to round 2 with everyone, then he would take her home by car. However, Bobby saw that it was quite late and was also worried that her husband would be waiting at home, so she refused. After that, everyone left the bar first, while Bobby was still waiting for the car on the snowy road. Not long after, a driver saw Bobby standing outside the bar, so he stopped and invited her to get in the car. Bobby thanked the driver and got in the car, sitting comfortably and warmly. The car started and Bobby disappeared into the night. Meanwhile, Jeb finished work early and returned home. He had just heard his wife's phone call but didn't pay much attention. Because a friend had come over to visit, Jeb was busy welcoming them. After the friend left, Jeb lay down on the bed to rest and wait for his wife to come home, but he was so tired that he fell asleep. Jeb woke up with a start and looked around but saw no one beside him. It was already midnight. He quickly called his wife but couldn't get through. Jeb realized something was wrong, so he quickly drove to ask a friend that Bobby had met. At this time, Jeb knocked on the door repeatedly to wake his friend. Jeb asked his friend if he knew where Bobby was. The friend shook his head and said Bobby had returned home at 8 p.m., and no one knew if she had gone anywhere else. Jeb grew concerned and drove to the Breckenridge police station 20 miles away to report his wife missing. But the police told him that she had only been missing for a few hours, which was not enough time to open an investigation. Jeb was so worried that he couldn't sleep that night. Early the next morning, Jeb received a call from a rancher 20 miles northeast of their home. He had found some personal belongings and a driver's license on the road that morning. The rancher contacted Jeb through the phone number on his driver's license. After calling, Jeb quickly called his friends to drive to the ranch. On the way, they looked carefully through the car window and found a green backpack that Bobby often carried when he went out. His friends got out of the car and started searching but couldn't find Bobby. Jeb returned home after getting his driver's license back and they felt hopeless, but his friends still decided not to give up and decided to search on the road that Bobby often took. They brought their skis and went to the mountain pass at an altitude of 3,500 m. Because of the recent snowstorm, the pass was covered with thick snow. The group used their skis to enter the pass and carefully observed everything around them. Not long after, they discovered the body was frozen, both hands were tied tightly with plastic rope, and there were 2 gunshot wounds on the chest. The medical examiner concluded that Bobby died from a gunshot wound, the murder weapon being a medium-caliber pistol. The police then searched near Hussier Pass and found Bobby's brass key in the parking lot below the mountain, which was the key Jeb had made for her. The police also found an orange sock, but it did not appear to be Bobby's. There was also a briefcase nearby, containing coins, medicine, and other items. When Jeb heard that his wife had died, he was heartbroken and turned in the glove he had found to the police. After testing it at the laboratory, they found blood on the glove, and the blood came from a man, possibly the murderer. Since DNA technology was not yet developed at that time, the police kept the bloody glove carefully. The driver who drove Bobby that night could be a suspect. But no one saw Bobby get into the car. Jeb became the police's first suspect. Police interviewed Jeb. On the night of the crime, he was at home entertaining a friend. He then left the house to look for Bobby. However, during the police investigation, the friend did not come to confirm Jeb's statement. The day after the crime, Breckenridge police received a report from a bar employee saying that his colleague Annette had been missing for 2 days. This was rare in the area and immediately attracted the attention of the police. According to the investigation, Annette, 21 years old, was born in Iowa. Her mother remarried and the family had 4 siblings. Annette was a cheerful and open-minded girl who aspired to become a female pilot. 4 years ago, after graduating from high school, Annette moved to Breckenridge. During the day, Annette worked as a housekeeper at the Holiday Inn and worked part-time at the bar in the evening. She was sociable and worked very hard, never being late. After 2 consecutive days of not seeing her come to work and not answering her phone, her co-workers reported her to the police. The police started investigating Annette's case. 2 days ago, she quit her job at the Holiday Inn, then took the bus to a drugstore in Breckenridge. At 4:45 p.m., Annette was seen talking to a woman at the drugstore. Around 5 p.m., Annette was waiting for a bus to go to work at a bar, but since then she has disappeared without a trace. 2 women disappeared on the same day. The police felt that this case was quite unique. They once again approached Jeb to ask if he knew Annette. Jeb initially denied it, but a few days later, when he saw Annette's picture in the newspaper, he remembered some details. Jeb went to the police and said that he had met Annette once before. A year ago, she had ridden in Jeb's car. But they had not seen each other since then. Jeb's voluntary confession increased the police's suspicions of him. 2 months after the incident, Jeb accepted a polygraph test request. The results showed nothing unusual and the case had no new information for a long time. 6 months after the incident, the police discovered Annette's body in Park County, Colorado, 37 kilometers from Breckenridge. A young man accompanied his father to Sacramento West to fish and relax, when he suddenly saw a body floating in the stream. He immediately reported it to the police. The police quickly arrived at the scene. They found the woman's body lying face down in the water, wearing a winter coat, the zipper of her jeans broken, wearing the wrong shoe. And importantly, she had been sexually assaulted before she died. The victim was Annette, who had gone missing half a year ago. There was a bullet wound in her back, and the killer also used a medium-caliber pistol. Possibly because she was shot while running away. When examining the scene, the police noticed Annette's socks. An orange sock on her left leg and a striped sock on her right leg. The police found the other sock in Annette's coat pocket, but the other orange sock was missing. However, it was the orange sock that confirmed that the two murders were related. The police remembered that at the scene of Bobby's murder, they also found an orange sock of unknown origin, very similar in size and style to the sock on Annette's left leg. After comparing, they confirmed that the two socks were the same pair. The backpack of unknown origin was also confirmed to be Annette's. The emergence of new evidence proved that both cases were committed by the same killer. The police discovered a surprising thing. In Annette's wallet, there was a business card of Jeb. Although Jeb had voluntarily confessed that he knew Annette half a year ago, the appearance of the business card made the police suspicious of him once again. Jeb explained that at that time he was advertising his electronic equipment repair service and had distributed business cards to most of the passengers. So Annette was no exception. Jeb's explanation sounded reasonable but could not prove or deny anything. The police continued to investigate the relationship between Jeb and the victim. Neighbors said that Jeb loved his wife very much and rarely saw them quarrel. As the only person who knew both victims at the same time, Jeb once again accepted the request for a polygraph test and also found nothing unusual. 8 years after that case, the Colorado Center arrested a serial killer named Luther, who is now in custody. He was sentenced to life in prison for multiple assaults and assaults on women. The year Bobby and Annette were attacked, Luther committed a crime in Breckenridge. He lured a young woman into his car and raped her. Later, in prison, Luther proudly told his fellow inmates that he had done it to Bobby and Annette. Police gave Luther a polygraph test, but the results showed that he was only joking with his fellow inmates. The victim's family did not give up on finding the killer. Annette's family even hired a private investigator to investigate. But to no avail. And in the end, the two cases remained unsolved. In the 1990s, states established databases in DNA laboratories. Police extracted DNA from Jeb and serial killer Luther to compare with blood samples from the gloves. The results confirmed that neither was involved in the case. In 1998, police entered the killer's DNA into a criminal database but found no matches. In early 2021, a Denver company ran a family history check on Bobby and Annette. The DNA from the glove was uploaded to the database and the results were not disappointing. A pair of brothers matched the sample. Police contacted the brothers, Bruce and Aylan. Bruce said he had never lived in Colorado, but he said his brother lived there. Police immediately investigated Aylan and found that he lived outside Breckenridge and had worked in a mine. The suspect, born in 1951, lured a young woman into his car at the age of 22 and attacked her with a rock. He was later arrested and served 6 months in jail for assault. After his release, he continued to live in Breckenridge. When Bobby and Annette were attacked, Aylan was 30 years old, and now he is an elderly man. The police started to follow Aylan and tried to get his DNA sample. But Aylan was very careful and rarely interacted with others. After a month of following, Aylan did not throw away a single piece of trash, but the police were determined not to give up and kept waiting. Finally, Aylan drove to a fast food restaurant that had a drive-through ordering service to order food. Aylan did not get out of the car, he ordered and ate directly in the car. Not long after, he finished eating and left. The police quickly found the bag of food that Aylan had left in the trash and took it to the lab. It didn't take long for the police to find saliva on the tissue and extract Aylan's DNA. The results showed that Alan's DNA matched the DNA on the glove and that he was the one who killed Bobby and Annette. After obtaining important evidence, the police arrested Alan at a traffic stop in Dumont. Alan was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping and assault. He denied all charges and claimed that the DNA evidence could have been faked, but no one believed his defense. The solving of the two famous cases immediately became national news. The victims' families could not hold back their tears. Over the past 40 years, they had suffered unspeakable pain. But they still persevered in seeking justice. Photos of Alan when he was young were also released at the press conference. Police suspect that he has committed more crimes and are looking for tips from the public. Shortly after the image of the killer was released, an elderly man named Alex contacted the police. He is a former fire chief of the Clear Creek district, who personally saved the life of this devil on a snowy night 40 years ago. On January 6, 1982, the night Bobby and Annette were attacked, a snowstorm swept across the entire state of Colorado, leaving several mountain roads covered in snow and making it difficult for vehicles to travel. Alex was on duty that day and unexpectedly received a rescue mission from the control station at midnight. After receiving the mission, he immediately drove to the designated location. The outside temperature was very low and continued to drop below -30 degrees Celsius. The trapped person could be in danger of losing his life. It took Alex about 15 minutes to arrive and find the victim, Alan, shaking in his pickup truck. When he saw Alex coming to help, Alan shouted, excited, "Oh my God, I'm saved!" Alan was a mechanic at the mine and Alex used to work there. So he recognized Alan at first sight and asked why he was here. Alan said that he had been drinking and then drove home, but suddenly a snowstorm came and he couldn't find his way out. Alan felt hopeless but suddenly heard the sound of a plane flying over and he used the headlights of the pickup truck to send out an SOS signal. Then Alex arrived in time and successfully rescued him. Alex was also amazed at Alan's luck, but he discovered a wound above Alan's right eye. He explained that when he went to the toilet, he couldn't see clearly and hit his head on his truck. Despite DNA evidence, Alan still denied all charges. The police made assumptions about his criminal history. At 5 p.m. that same day, Alan drove to the streets of Breckenridge and found Annette waiting for a ride home. Seeing Annette's beauty, Alan immediately had a bad idea and drove her away. The car drove into a deserted area, and no matter how loud Annette screamed, Alan paid no attention. Alan sexually assaulted Annette. After that, she quickly put her clothes back on but could not find the long stocking for her left leg. In the chaos, she could only put on an orange stocking on her left leg and escape the car. Alan immediately got out of the car, chased after her and shot Annette in the back, killing her on the spot. Alan panicked, left Annette's body in the stream and quickly drove away from the scene. On the way back to Breckenridge, he threw Annette's backpack and did not notice the orange sock in the corner of the car. It was already around 8 p.m. He again targeted Bobby, who was waiting for the car outside the bar, and successfully lured her into the car. When passing through La Hussier Park border crossing, he pulled Bobby out of the car to commit the crime. Bobby grabbed the keychain and resisted strongly, causing Alan's right eye to be injured and blood to be on her gloves. Alan was angry and shot Bobby twice in the chest, causing her to fall on the spot and die shortly after. Alan then threw Bobby's body into a pile of snow under a tree. He suddenly noticed the orange sock in the corner of the car and mistook it for Bobby's. So he threw it away and left the scene. He threw the backpack and bloody gloves on the side of the road. He drove a little further and threw Bobby's driver's license near a cattle station. It was dark and the snowstorm was rolling, making it difficult for him to see the road, so he accidentally got lost at the Guadalajara Park border gate and ended up stuck in the snowstorm. In September 2022, Allen's case was also brought to trial in Park County Court. In November of the same year, Allen was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, and the court sentenced him to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Finally, 72-year-old Allen received the appropriate punishment in a Colorado state prison. In 2023, Allen passed away in prison for unknown reasons. The murderer's punishment seemed to have come too late and too lightly, making millions of people feel extremely indignant. Although justice came very late, fortunately it still came, and it was not just a name. What do you think about the cruel behavior of this perverted murderer? Leave your comments below to discuss together. And before you leave, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with the most exciting and thrilling cases on the channel.